Friday. So date of the test is Friday, 9/21. This Friday. There are 12 questions, 68 points. This is page 20. 40. In your, or 40. Excuse me, 40. 40. Sorry. Page 40. Thank you. 68 points. When I put your grade in, it will be out of 100%, not out of 68 points. So I'll put it in as 100, like is the highest you can get on the test. So Friday, as we look at the number of questions and where your points are coming from and your standards here. So the first standard, I don't know that you necessarily have to write the exact standard, but just to make sure that you're understanding, that first standard, there's only going to be one question. That's the unit analysis. Unit analysis we will have on this test. When I am looking at your 13 review, this is going to be very much like questions 13 to 16. So if I'm looking at your review for this unit, this is on 13 review. This is number 13 to 16 on the A13 review. It is an 8-point question. So when you are preparing, I'm going to be looking for you showing all of the words in the right spots and then canceling those words so that you're multiplying to get your answer. Again, I don't know that you need to put all the standard numbers or letters. This is also right from the poster, but if we are looking at, I can add, subtract, multiply data in a matrix. So when we do our matrix or matricy operations, when you get to your A13, this is questions 29 to 32. On that, there are going to be 2 questions. They are 6 points each. Now, since there's only 2 questions, it's either probably going to be an addition, subtraction, and then maybe that multiplying one. I don't think it's too big of a combination one. It's not like add 2 things and then multiply it like those ones that we did. But making sure you know if it's undefined or not. The difference if it's being undefined when you add, subtract, than when you multiply, divide. So you're just making sure, because if it is undefined, you have to give me the reason why it's undefined. So we talked about that. My hint would be go back and read through your notes from this unit. Like, oh, this one we did matrix, like, oh, that's so long ago. At the beginning of the school year, I mean, it's almost been a month now, right? Since we started this unit when we did that matrix multiplication and that, working with those. The next standard that we are taking a look at, there are 7 questions. This is where a big majority of your points are coming from. There are, you're going to solve the equations or inequalities, and you have to justify the steps. So when you are looking at the review, this is pretty much questions. This is going to be where you're solving and graphing, so it's going to be like 1 to 12. If I was looking, this is 1 to 12 on the review. It will also be like questions where you have to justify, like 21 and 22, and 21 to 28. So this is a huge part of the review. And when I look at the test, there's 2 6-point questions, 2 that are worth 6 points, and then the other 5 questions are 4 points each. Gauge and use equations or inequalities to solve problems. So the creating part, that's where like those problems that we just looked at, 19 to 22 from 12B. It's going to be your problems when you are on the review. I give you questions, I think it's 17. 17 to 20. And each of these is going to be an 8-point question. So what it happens to be, so 8 points each. And then this is kind of for you to decide how well do you know this. Now the 8 points, I will tell you 4 of the points are going to be from just writing the equation. If it tells you it's an equation, then I should see an equal, right? Or it's going to be writing the inequality. Okay? The inequality could be an absolute value one, like the ones we did today, like 19, 20, 21, 22. And then the second 4 points of each problem is that you solved it correctly. So you solved the problem. And then you answer it with a label. So if it says, when I'm looking at your homework questions today on those problems, and it might say, well, how many copies? And you just put down 5. 5 isn't going to cut it because 5 might be what the variable equals. P equals 5, but the question is really, you can have 5 pages or 5 copies or something like that. So when you do those story problem parts in 13, just making sure you look at that. The question someone asked in the last class is, what if I write my equation totally wrong? I wrote the wrong equation, am I out 8 points because then I solved the equation I wrote and I solved it wrong? You are not. I will base so you might lose maybe 2 or 3 points on the first one because you got something mixed up. But then from there, you solved everything totally right, so you get the majority of the points. You just didn't know how to write it the right way. Does that make sense? Okay. So it won't be totally, and you were solving it, and this is what I saw some of you write down. You did a +3, +3, +3. And then, so on the test Friday, you do this, and then you put 12 here. I mean, I understand that you multiplied. Thank goodness you wrote +3 here, and then you didn't add, you multiplied and put 12. But at least I'd maybe take off, if I'm solving this and it's a 6-point question, I'm maybe taking off a point and like, you know what, they pretty much get it. They got the wrong answer. They showed me this, but this was wrong. Okay, so just watching those things. Some of you forgot to put this as a -1, you put it as 1. That changed the answer, it changed it to a half. So you might have got it marked wrong, but maybe you still got 4 out of 4 on your quiz because you pretty much, that was your only mistake because you wrote down the wrong problem at the beginning. It was -1. But this one, you start with an or, you probably should end with an or. When I'm taking a look at number 3, I had some people getting confused with the open and closed circle part. When I look at number 3 and I am writing that for that first problem, the value x, if you want to write it with 2 separate ones and you want to use the phrase and, you can do that. But you simply could have had it in between, but it is less or equal to 2. And when you read this one, you have to read the variable first, and it's x is greater than 3. So some of you had it written this way. You had this, and I marked that wrong, and you did it wrong for both of them. When you read this, you're telling me x is less than, I think we had -3. X is less than -3. That would have been this solution. X is less than -3. So if you're going to write it in between the two, you just got to make sure you're understanding it should have been greater than -3, and x is less or equal to 2. This one is definitely an or. And I didn't take off those of you that put it as one big long one and you put x in the middle here and you said x is greater than 3 and x is less than -1. But this really should have been an or. So just to be careful for that because they have nothing in common. Okay? So as you're doing the review today, as you start with what you struggle with the most, right? I am here, your classmates are here, we can answer your questions. If you get equations, great, don't start with equations. But you know what? If you struggle with 10, 11, and 12 literal equations, oh my gosh, I didn't think you were going to do that again. Yep, I know, they're back. So if you struggled with this, start here, right? If you really struggled with the unit multi, or doing our unit analysis, it tells you to use page 814, but you can, most of you, if you don't have your textbook, just use your planner. That back page has all those conversions in it. You can use that page also. So if you struggled with this, start here, okay? So, writing equations. I had some people read these and go, it doesn't look like it should be that hard, but I'm not sure how to write it. If you struggle with just writing the equation part, do that in class and ask questions, check the answer in the back, and let me help you or let your classmates help you, because when you get home, we can't. The one step I will say over here that we didn't talk that much about is, and on the test for this part, when I ask you for the steps, I give you a word bank. So I'll have addition, property of equality, subtraction, probably multiplication, property. But the one you haven't seen that much is the commutative property. Anyone who know what commutative property does? It's a beautiful property, one of my favorites, you know.
You can switch the order of
Switch the order of things. So I had some people going, I don't get what they did here to here, this step, okay? When you look at this one, it started with 13, it had W over 7 minus 13. Next year when you're in geometry, they do this, they're a lot more picky about it. But this one, because they just switched the order on this side, that is the commutative property. So when you mix, keep it addition, but you switch the order, that is the commutative property. And if you're not sure as you do these, check the answers in the back and then go over them. And then someone said, I just don't know how to study for a math test. Well, cover this up and do it again. Whatever part you don't get. If you can write the equations the first time, great, and then come back to them in a day or so and take a look. So tomorrow, those of us on 8-1, those of you on 8-1 will be here. There'll be a sub. I do not know the person's a math sub. So you're going to be working on those, working on your